Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Yo, my name is Solo, aka the Soloist.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, so my name is Solo. Solo is short for Solomon. And I go by the Soloist. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay, hell yeah.
I was originally born in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, gotcha. So you left, came back.
Yeah.
Left. And you were here, left, came back.
Yeah, I've been back and forth between Las Vegas and Portland for my whole life. And I feel like Las Vegas really taught me the most about who I am as a man, but I definitely have roots in Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
Even up here in Vancouver.
Oh yeah.
But what I do is I make music. I make hip hop music. I also play guitar. I also play the bass. I also write for other people.
Oh hell yeah.
I also write scripts. And one day I hope to do fashion. But as of right now, I'm focused on my music career and creating a reputation for myself as a dope MC.
Gotcha. Man of many hats, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And what got you into music initially?
What got me into music was the album Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim.
Okay.
So the first time I ever heard that, I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. I had heard people rap before. I had, it was around the time where Nelly was rapping and 50 Cent and stuff. And it was that's cool. Yeah, I remember when Tupac was alive and he was making music. But I never thought that that's who I was or what I wanted to do until I heard Rakim for the first time. And then that's what inspired me to really just start writing. And then I heard other people, such as Gym Class Heroes. They made me feel like I could write and create songs that were relevant to me. And, that's what got me started.
Hell yeah. Man, I haven't heard Gym Class Heroes in a while. That's a good name drop.
Yeah.
And before we officially get into more of what you do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Cool.
And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
So to make it simple, the first album I ever bought with my own money was Black Eyed Peas album.
Okay.
Called Elefunk.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first one. But, and don't get me wrong, that album was instrumental to who I am as an artist because they blended so many different styles together into one sound. And it was just, to me, it just blew my mind.
No, people could say what they want about them now, but the Black Eyed Peas were something when they first really became, known. And even the stuff they were putting out before they got super big, they have a mark in music, whether people love them or hate them now.
Right.
And so like that was a pretty instrumental album just in general.
Right. And it's people think they sold out. I think is kind of the whole thing with them. But if you go back to before they were famous, they were totally hip hop, all boom bap type beats and flows and all of that stuff. And I feel like they figured out a formula that allowed them to cross over into the industry and become worldwide, international, hit makers.
Yeah.
And that's similar to what I want to do, and also keep it true to the hip hop and keep it true to the guitar that I play and, just the music that inspires me in general and not just be stuck in a box of like, oh yeah, he just raps over beats and that's what he does. Like, nah, like let's do some, flamenco style instrumentation with my hip hop vocals. Let's do some jazz mixed with the, maybe some singing, R&B type singing, let's do something just experimental, creative. And that's, where that inspiration really comes from is that first album is, that's where.
Hell yeah. That is a super solid first album.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, what was one of the first live shows you ever went to? That was like specifically one you wanted to go to. So like you saw what was happening, got tickets, went to it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to drop this one just because I have to say that my first concert, that I ever been to was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to be like 4 years old.
All right. Yeah. So it wasn't like the first one you picked. But,
yes.
I mean, you don't have to pick it to have a great time for that.
Yeah. And that just left an imprint on me at a young age. But the first concert I really wanted to go to and got tickets for and went to was Kanye West's Glow in the Dark tour.
Okay.
And it was one of the dopest concerts I've ever experienced.
Hey, I say what you will about Kanye, but the man is a showman for sure, especially during those like peak eras.
Bro, it was Kanye West, it was Pharrell, it was Rihanna.
Okay.
Lupe Fiasco.
Oh, damn.
And if I'm forgetting anybody, forgive me, but that's pretty much what I remember.
If all those names were in one place, it'd be hard to remember anybody else.
Yeah, dude.
Especially if they weren't quite in that same realm. But that was probably a phenomenal show.
I remember being mind blown by Rihanna because I'd never seen somebody just so open with their sexuality on stage. And I was like, yo, I was in high school. Like, what is this? Like, this is something I had never experienced. And then Lupe Fiasco, I remember he did a backflip on stage and just I was like, yo, this is
that tracks.
Show. And then also Kanye West, like I might be tripping, but like Glow in the Dark tour, I remember he like literally floated across the stage from one side of the stage from another. I could be tripping, but long story short, it was the best concert I've ever experienced.
Oh man,
a legend.
I could only imagine. That was probably a wild show.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
I mean, the only person you didn't list performance-wise was Pharrell. What was his like?
Oh, Pharrell jumped on the speakers.
Yep.
That's what I remember about him. And he was really just kind of like a punk rock style with his performance. He didn't kick any speakers over, but just the way he was standing on them and just like rapping with the crowd.
Yeah.
Something I'll always remember.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I bet that was rad. And before we officially get into it, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I don't think I have a definitive moment, but like I said, when I first heard Eric B. and Rakim Paid in Full, I knew that's who I wanted to be as a person.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to be a hip hop artist and a recording artist and a rapper and a legend and somebody that spoke with purpose and somebody that spoke with, a certain consciousness that just like kind of wakes people up. Like they call him the God MC, and so they call him that because of his knowledge, his supreme wisdom, and that's kind of how I approach not just my music, but my whole career. I want to just spread light, to people and do it through rap because rap is, really the language of the urban youth, and that's where the light needs to be shined.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I mean, if you had to have a moment to pick, that would definitely be a quality one for sure. And remind me, how old were you when you when you discovered that?
I had to be like 9.
Okay. So like you hadn't even entered like pre-teen years.
Maybe like, okay, so how old are you in 6th grade?
Oof.
Like, it was 6th grade for sure.
Yeah, that sounds. I don't think you're. Man, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, but
I remember what I was in 8th grade. No, it's freshman year was like 15.
Right.
So yeah, like 10.
Yeah.
10. But even still, like 10's pre-teen. You know what I mean? Like that's wild. So yeah, like you just were in it.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot to ask earlier. Was like anybody in your household musical growing up, or did you have anybody else around you that was like actively doing music?
Well, I come from a musical family in the sense that my grandfather, my papa, beautiful voice.
Okay.
In the church, he sings. My grandmother, she can just tap into the frequency of music and it just takes us away. We get carried off into a different space with the music. I think I get it from her. And my dad, who I definitely get it from, he actually opened up for Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, damn.
In Portland.
Okay.
Or not here because we're in Vancouver right now, but in Portland, he opened up for Wu-Tang Clan. So that was kind of like his biggest, claim to fame. But hopefully, I can take the baton, to higher heights.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. That's rad. I'm glad I remembered to ask at the last minute.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Okay.
We are going to get a super easy one out of the way. How'd you pick the name?
Well, if you listen to the album Paid in Full by Eric and Rakim, he actually says, I can't remember the lyric exactly, but he's like, I'm the microphone soloist. And he says soloist a few times in that album. And my name being Solo and Solomon, it just naturally became my stage name. Because it's kind of an homage to what inspired me to rap. And it's also kind of a nudge to my name.
Yeah.
So kind of where it just fits in.
No, I dig that. And it's definitely, it's comfortable. It's easy to spell. It's easy to remember. It kind of checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
And, I imagine it's probably easy to like respond to. So you don't have to be like, what? When you're at live because somebody's like trying to get your attention.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully if you are a fan of my music, you're not going to walk up to me and say, hey, the soloist. You're going to say, hey, Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you'll know me well enough to know that that's what people call me.
Yeah.
But on stage, my name is the Soloist. Like, if you know The Weeknd or you're a fan of him, you're not going to say, hey, The Weeknd. Like, you're going to be, hey, Abel, or hey, like, you're going to at least...
I feel like a lot of people probably drop the at least.
Yeah, but just call me Solo. Nobody calls me the Soloist in real life.
Yeah.
It's kind of just my stage name for the marquee.
Oh yeah.
No,
I dig that. And it's cool to have a nickname of your stage name. You know what I mean? Because then you know who actually knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like the Soloist is a mysterious title.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say like, I am this, guy, celebrity me. It's kind of how like Prince did the artist formerly known as Prince. He was just a symbol. Like,
yeah.
The Soloist, it could be anybody. Anybody can be the Soloist.
True.
If you step into the light and, you're saying something that maybe everybody else doesn't agree with and you're the only one who believes in it. You can be the soloist if you play guitar and you're in a band and you stand and you step up and you just play your heart out. Like,
you're like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
What is that?
From Princess Bride.
I know the movie, but I'm not familiar with the reference.
He was when the stable boy went away, became the pirate, and then like found her later. That's neither here nor there. We'll get into that off camera.
Okay.
But getting back into it. Let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process a little bit. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, ready to make music.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
Well, I have to be honest with you. When I approach making music, there are so many tools that I use to begin a track. It's just like anything else that the more you do it, the more you learn, the more intimate you are with it, the more familiar you become with that skill. And so I have so many different tools now that I can use those different methods. But one of them I'm sure everyone is familiar with is just the mumbling method. You know, you hear a beat and you just, yeah. And then you just think, okay, what words fit into that rhythm? You know, wake up on my, you know, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just put the words in there. Or it might just be a concept that I want to address, you know, a subject matter or something like that. You know, I'll say, let's talk about unity. Okay, let's do a song about love. You know, and then once you kind of have the idea that you want to express, I don't want to say the song writes itself, because I don't believe that the song writes itself. I believe that the song is already written somewhere in space, you know, and we can channel some higher power, you know, and it allows us to access whatever that song is, whatever that idea is in space. It allows us to access that.
Yeah, more just like we're the conduit for the music to explode into.
Yeah. And so once you have that concept or you have that idea, then you can start to chisel away, kind of like a sculptor, right? They say it's already there. You're just chipping away what it's not.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's that approach to it. There's also, you know, interpolation, or you can go to other songs, you know, other legends, and listen to some of their songs. Like I listen to Eric Clapton, and he has a song that's he's like, she don't lie, she don't lie, she don't lie, cocaine. Yep. You know, and I took that and I went, we gon' ride, we gon' ride, we gon' ride, don't hate, hey, okay, don't hate, hey. So, you know, that's another method, is you could just kind of take a deep cut and remix it.
Yeah.
And then apply that to a totally different style of music, you know?
In that vein, when I was younger and I was writing music more often, I would actually, when I needed inspiration, I would take a moment, I would try and learn a part of a song that I really liked, and I would learn like just the essence of it. So I wouldn't actually learn the line. I would just learn enough to where I figure out a movement that's kind of in that space. And then I would instead take that movement and try to formulate something out of it.
Exactly.
So rather than like take the melody of that line or copy that line exactly, I'd be like, well, they're playing do, 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 do. And I'd be like, do, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, there. And then like move around with that.
Exactly. Yeah. The shape of it, you're kind of reforming that shape in your own way. But they were the ones who first kind of presented that to you.
Exactly.
And so that's a really good way to make music, I think. Because like they say, no idea is original. Even if you think you thought of something for the first time, you might be surprised.
Well, the notes can only go in so many orders and there's so many people. But also I think that we would be fools to deny the fact that we're all influenced by things, whether it be from music we listen to, stuff we hear on ads or out in the street, or just like in a car passing by, or even the sound of a car passing by. Like everything influences everything in some degree of separation.
Right.
The originality really comes from the energy that is introduced after the fact, like how you interject yourself into it, I really feel like.
Yeah. Or the creativity is what really makes you who you are.
Yeah.
You know, that's the originality. It's like, how creative can you be with all of these ingredients in front of you? Right? That's what's going to make you original. Instead of you taking those ingredients and just doing what other people do because you see them doing it, that's not originality.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what a lot of people do because they just see, oh, well, he has money or he has these girls. I want to have money. I want to have girls. So I'm going to form my music like this, or I'm going to put together my, you know, my art like this in this way. When in reality, you know, if you're really a creative individual, you could do it in your own way, still get the same result.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, chicken's chicken, but it can be cooked 1,000 ways.
Yeah.
And there are definitely certain places I like to go for it more than others. You know what I mean? And also, I think right now, and we'll touch on this a little later, but right now more than ever, I think this is a time in music where it's worth it to try things that you don't think might work. It's worth it to try things that are so far outside the realm. But I don't want to dig in that too much, because there's a point later where we'll dig into it more. But getting back to your process, do you usually go words first? Do you do like instrumentals first? Like how do you go about like picking out what direction you're going to go typically?
Typically, I go beat first.
Okay.
Typically, and there's also many methods to this, but I like to put on a beat loud, and I'll just stand in the middle of a room, and I'll just imagine. I'll close my eyes and imagine that there's a stadium full of people, and that every word I'm saying that's coming to me is going to be what this entire stadium full of people is going to hear. And so I want to make it to that standard, stadium status, where it's like I can actually perform this in that setting and it would translate, And so that's one thing I'll do is just put on a beat. Whatever comes to me, I'll build on that. Or sometimes I'll just put my headphones on and I'll just record over a beat in my headphones. I'll do the mumble. It's usually beat first, but I also want to drop this little gem. I will write titles to songs all the time. And you'll see like Kurt Cobain did that. He just like would write the title of the song and then he'll go and be like, okay, I'll use this title and then start writing to that. But what I started doing after I have so many title names, I'll start using the title names as lyrics in the songs. So then I'll find a golden thread between those concepts and those topics that I was talking about, those phrases.
Yeah.
And I'll just figure out, okay, what did all of these have in common? And then I'll just kind of piece them out into bars.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the bars have a little bit more punch to them because it seems like I put a lot more thought into them, because I'm putting together all of these things that I've been thinking about throughout over time.
Oh, yeah. No, I love that. That's rad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then just a quick touch on beat selection. How do you go about picking them out? Do you go online? Do you have people that make them for you? Are you making your own?
There are a lot of people that make really good beats. They can be found all over the place. Beat stars can be found on SoundCloud, YouTube. They can be found on Bandcamp. I tend to steer towards YouTube. I like to hear the beat, explore the person's page, their channel, reach out to the person, and then work with them that way, usually. But there have been times where I'll meet people at a bar or I'll meet them at a show and they have beats for sale on their website and you get it through that way. But, I'm really a proponent of like YouTube.
Okay.
Because I think YouTube really has a lot of good music. It's just super accessible. Like everything is super accessible.
It's become such a wide community for so many things. I mean, case in point, look at where we are. For those of you watching, that is it's such a cool place because you can put a lot on there, and also it gives you a visual element if you want it, which I think is really helpful in a lot of ways. But also it's a little easier to navigate. It's a little easier to categorize. Like, respectfully, SoundCloud's been around forever, but it's still a little clunky from time to time. It's not, like, especially like if you're using the app and stuff, it's hard to like zoom through and find information on things. YouTube's been around for so long and it's so much easier to get stuff on than like, the major streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music and things like that. And it's a good place.
Yeah. And how many rabbit holes have you gone down?
Oh, God.
YouTube. I mean, SoundCloud, I guess, Spotify, I guess, Apple Music. I haven't really gone down any rabbit holes using those platforms. But YouTube, I'll just dig for days and days and days and days and days. And it's like there's an infinite amount of content because people are uploading stuff every day.
Well, that and it's been around for longer than all the other ones to a respectful degree. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely older than Spotify. It's definitely older than Apple Music. It's definitely older than SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So like the algorithm is well formulated to kind of show you more of whatever it is you're looking at. And it just, again, the app is great. The website is great. It's very easy to kind of get into and stay in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of talented artists. It's become kind of like an inside joke among artists and people in the hip hop community that like, oh yeah, they're YouTube beats, you know, but there are platinum artists, platinum producers, you know. I just mean like very successful artists who upload beats on YouTube. Yeah. You know, and I work with some of those people. So I wouldn't knock it.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And actually that segues well into your music, because I noticed that you seem to main your stuff on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went and checked it out, and honestly, you've got a lot of stuff on there. There's a little bit of a gap between, I believe, 2011 and I want to say 2023. But in the last 12 months, you put out so much stuff.
Yeah.
So much stuff. And your style is actually really rad. Like it's cool because it's tight, it's well delivered. And but it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it has a proper like 90s influence without sounding like you were imitating the 90s. Like it feels like that you're rooted in that era, but it feels more modern, and it feels like you went outside the box. You tried a handful of things. You really kept it, you know, fresh and redesigned.
Exactly. And the point is to evolve.
Yeah.
You know, as an artist, I believe, you know. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. And the last thing I was going to say is you also have a really cool mix of freestyles and original tracks. And that's something that I think is it's nice to see, because it's like you're like, hey, look, here is me when I'm doing concepts, but also here is just me doing it. And you're not afraid to put out one or the other in sake of one or the other.
Right.
And so I guess before we dig into your most recent track, tell us a little, why do you choose to go that route? And also, I guess, why do you choose to mainly be on YouTube?
Well, I want to finish the thought that I was going to go into, and then I'll jump right into like why I use YouTube and why I use freestyles and originals. But the 90s, I really think, took hip hop to another level. You know, in the 80s, it was what it was. Yeah. But really in the 90s, I feel like people really mastered it, and they got super technical with it. And they approached it with this mindset of like, I'm going to be the best rapper. Yeah. I'm going to be, you know, my pen is going to be lethal to any MC, you know, and so that is where I come from, is that cloth of MC. But all things, you have to evolve, right? Like, you know, even like these cars, Honda, Porsche, Lamborghini, whatever kind of car you love, a Bentley or whatever, like it gets better over the years. Yeah. You know, the Bentleys in the 90s is not the same as the Bentleys nowadays. The Rolls Royces back in the 90s is not the same as the Rolls Royces now. You know, so I feel like I represent that evolution of hip hop into a new school, and even like more of a futuristic sound. But anyway, to go back to why I upload my music to YouTube is because I feel like it's so accessible. And also they partner with Google, so I'm allowed to run ads. And I feel like that gives me more power when I'm marketing. You know, I can kind of use that algorithm and use Google ads to my advantage and pretty much run those numbers all the way up. Because like you said, I have so much content that if I promote, hopefully it's a snowball and people start to, you know, experience my art exponentially. Yeah. You know, that it just goes up and it's parabolic, you know. That's what I'm hoping for. And in the freestyles and the originals, I do that because I feel like that's not necessarily what people want to hear. But I just think that the quality of my work speaks for itself, but the quantity allows me to reach more people. So I'm doing different styles, right? but I'm doing them in such a quantity that eventually somebody has to hear something or come across a piece of my work that they like.
Gotcha.
Right. And hopefully they hit the subscribe button and they like it, but that's what I'm doing. And I haven't honestly really dropped any of my music. I've just been dropping like clips that I've recorded on my cell phone.
Yeah.
But when I'm ready, man, I've got like 2 albums ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, man, I feel like when people hear that music, that's when they'll understand the versatility, the Afro beats, the R&B influences, the hip hop bars, the new school auto-tune type singing music. Like I do all of that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when the album comes out and the mixtapes drop, people will really see that it's all about that versatility.
Damn. Well, this is usually where I would segue into tell us about some new music that you're working on. Do you want to maybe dig into it a little bit more? Tell us what you look forward to maybe for like the next, like, do you have like a plan for when you're going to release the next big body of work?
Not necessarily a timeline. It's more so a financial thing. I'm looking for, the right investor, the right funding. I really want this to reach as many people as it can.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to just sit on YouTube and kind of just get old over time. I want it to be fresh when people hear it. And so I've been holding on to a couple albums, and I have one, it's called Street Kid. And this album is pretty much an autobiography. It's based on my life and the things that have happened to me. And, I talk about getting kicked out by my mom and being on the streets and the things that I had to do, as a consequence of that, and the environment that I adapted to, and just being a very empathetic person and being an intellectual person, the desire to change the environment and to be a positive influence on the environment is pretty much what the album is about. And overcoming that adversity to become a successful person, to be, a productive member of society in your own way. You don't have to do it and conform to the way people tell you to do it.
Yeah.
You can be a street kid and still take a different route. You don't have to necessarily, like, if you listen to my music, I talk about God a lot, but I'm not a Christian rapper or a religious rapper. Like, I talk about selling drugs, but I'm not a drug dealer. I talk about guns, but I'm not a gangster.
Yeah.
There are these different walks of life, these different choices that we can make on the streets as kids. If you're young enough, you're in the streets, you're impressionable. So I kind of want to give kids a different way of approaching their situation, and show them like there is hope for you. You can be an artist, whatever your vocation is, whatever your talent is, you can cultivate that and develop that and make a living with that.
Oh yeah. Damn. Well, now I'm super excited for this.
Yeah.
I should have asked this a little bit earlier, but do you perform a lot? Are you like out gigging a lot right now?
I have been performing a lot, but I haven't been really outside like that in recent years.
Okay.
Kind of just been in the hyperbolic time chamber, just
putting in the hours.
Yeah, getting ready, sharpening my blade. But I was in Hawaii for 2 years.
Okay.
And I linked up with a lot of artists out there actually, because we were organizing shows out there.
Yeah. There's a really cool music scene in Hawaii.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting characters. And I feel like the motivation isn't money. It's not fame.
No, they're really they're about it. Yeah. Also, a lot of people there, literally just a few days ago from when this comes out, we had another episode that just dropped out with Who's to Say, shout out. And they're from Hawaii, like pretty much full on. And so like they were talking all about like the experiences there. And also there's another band around here named All Hype, who they're mainly from there as well.
Who was the gentleman or the guy you were talking to last from Hawaii?
That, like I said, they're a duo named Who's to Say.
Okay.
Yeah. So when your episode comes out, it will have been like, I think like 2 days before, because the one that just physically came out today in the real world.
Okay.
So a few days ago for people watching.
Interesting.
But there is this element of music in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Like it's treated a little bit differently there from what I've gathered.
Oh man, have you ever been to Hawaii?
I have not. I'm hoping to go next year.
It's a completely different world, man. The music is all about love and positivity and just sharing aloha, living that lifestyle of everybody is a family. We should treat each other with respect.
Yeah.
We should take time to listen to one another, hug each other. If you don't have food, I have food. If you don't have water, I share with you.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just a beautiful place.
You know, it's a weird observation, but I've been trying to familiarize myself with the language a little bit more as of late for outside reasons. All of the agreeing words are really short, very easy to say, very forward. All the disagreeing words are long. They take effort. They take more like work to actually put it out there. Like no is like 7 letters long, but yes is 2.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's just something in even the element of that. But that's neither here nor there. Getting back into you, what brought you out to Hawaii?
I got an opportunity to work in Hawaii.
Okay.
And prior to living in Hawaii, I also helped organize shows in Vegas too. So I've performed quite a bit in my day.
Yeah.
But when I was in Vegas, I got a phone call from one of my friends, Twiz. If you ever want to look on my Instagram, Twizzy, I'm not sure exactly what his Instagram name is, but he makes music and he's really good at making music. So you should definitely check him out.
Oh, yeah.
But he invited me to come to Hawaii to work at a kiosk in a mall. And I worked at the kiosk for a few months, but a few months later, I opened up my own kiosk at the mall.
Okay.
So I decided to just live out there, and I was funding my lifestyle with the kiosk selling jewelry in the mall. So that was pretty cool. And then I ran into an amazing person named Nina. She's called The Messenger. GR The Messenger. And we just started putting together shows in Hawaii, and she would do, it was called, I'm not sure what it was called, but it was a jam night every Monday. And so we would just get together and get as many people to the jam session as we could, and everybody just showed up because they love to express themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily about anything else other than just that connection and artists coming together and connecting and expressing themselves and getting that out every week. Because all week long people work.
Yep.
And they just want to break free from the monotony and let loose. And that was a positive outlet that we created for people. She originally created for people, but then I later assisted with.
Gotcha. Well, that's rad. Thank you for sharing that. I was trying to get to this question earlier, and we kind of segued away from it, and I want to bring it back. Do you have a track that you like really enjoy performing, whether it's one that's released or not? Like, do you have one that you're like, this is just the vibe every time?
Yeah, I have a song called Get Together. It's pretty good. Not just because it's a lyrical, I don't want to say masterpiece, but it's, I think I executed the words like really well, but the message behind the song is a very powerful message. It's just about unity and everybody getting together, not just in our neighborhoods, not just in our cities, not just in our country, but everyone in the world, needs to come together and work together.
Is that a track you might have written in Hawaii by chance?
Get Together, I actually wrote in Las Vegas.
Okay. I was just curious if those two things had aligned given the mentalities.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I have songs from when I was living in Hawaii, though. But I always tend to stay geared towards the street life, and speaking for the people who don't have a voice.
Gotcha.
Because it's easy to overlook all of that, what's going on in the underworld, when you're so positive and you're so, light and love and peace. Like, there's still people who are struggling in the underbelly of society. And so I tend to try to shine light on those things, but I also have some brighter, more island vibe, dancey type of songs that were inspired by the island.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, sorry, I lost my train of thought for that, but thank you for sharing that part. Now I want to take a moment though, and I want to zoom out. I want to kind of look at music as a whole.
Let's do it.
What are some of the things about music that you're experiencing right now, whether it's new music or just stuff you're listening to on your own time that you enjoy and you're finding inspiration in at the moment?
I'm finding inspiration in an artist named Lee Hazelwood. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He's a psychedelic country western artist.
Okay.
Kind of like Johnny Cash, but he's a little bit more Americana, a bit more rockabilly. Lee Hazelwood is a little bit more ethereal. He's just an interesting voice. It's very mystical, very haunting. And he works with Nancy Sinatra a lot. Nancy, you know Nancy Sinatra?
Yeah, hell yeah.
His daughter. And they've got a lot of good music together. She's the one who sang Bang Bang, He Shot Me Down, from Kill Bill. These Boots Are Made for Walking. You know, so that just whole era right now is kind of rocking in the background for me. And I want to start making some music with those type of beats, using that type of vibe where it's like maybe we're on some type of an adventure. You know, because being from Las Vegas, that's kind of like a country western type of energy. That's where we come from, is that kind of Wild West mentality. And so I want to incorporate that music in some projects in the future. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, that'll be rad for sure. And then before we move on to the next part, this next question is probably the densest question I've gotten in the interview. But we talked a lot about, you know, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Music gives me a purpose. Music gives me a reason to get out of bed. Music gives me value, because without music, I don't know who I would be. It's as if my identity is centered around music, right? And without that music, then I don't think I would be nearly as happy or content or just peaceful. I really feel like it brings me that content. It brings me that peace. It brings me that happiness where, like, yeah, I have a goal. I'm driven to making it happen. I'm dedicated to something. I'm committed to something. I'm disciplined in this area. You know, I have a talent. I have a skill. So I'm just going to keep moving forward and until I succeed in this field. And so that's what it gives back to me: hope, inspiration, a dream, you know, but I don't really focus on what I'm getting from it. I tend to focus on like this is what I'm going to leave when I die. This is the mark I'm going to make. This is the you know, legacy I'm going to leave.
Yeah. It's more what you're giving to music than what music's giving to you.
Yeah. And also, I guess that's a two-way street, because it's giving me that platform to be a legend, you know, so it's a two-way street in that sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, music I feel like is one of those spaces where it can be very like symbiotic, you know what I mean? Like we said earlier, we are the conduit for music, so it needs us to exist in the realm.
Yeah.
We need it to create existence with. Like it's not something where you're pulling from nothing, just like it's not appearing out of thin air.
Yeah. And some people don't connect with music.
Yeah.
Some people don't really listen to music, and they don't make music, and they don't care about anything that has to do with music. But I think it does exist in a space where if you give to it, it will give back to you. Just like anything else in life. Love. You know, if you give to it, it'll give back to you. If, you know, I think the same thing about the streets. I believe if you give to your community, your community will give back to you. And it's almost like a weird, mystical, metaphysical phenomena that happens to where you give to somebody else and then you are given to from a completely unrelated source.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's the same thing with music. It's like if you just put everything into it, then you're going to get everything out of it.
Yep. Or I even feel like maybe it's going to give you everything it wants to give you in return. Yeah. All right. But thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Okay, let's do it.
And for this, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward.
Cool.
If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
One person that is alive today that I would want to work with is, you know, I would have to say Lupe Fiasco.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Lupe Fiasco is my favorite rapper. I think he's the best rapper ever. And I think that if I got into the studio with him, that's how I would want to work with him, is get in the studio with him. We put together the concept, start from the beginning. And it could even be like a student-teacher relationship, you know, where he's Mr. Miyagi, I'm Daniel's son. Yep. Show me how you do what you do. You know, I'll create my part, and then we put it together. But I'm really there to just soak up as much from the sensei as I can. Yeah. You know, and that's really what I want to do, is just like learn from the best, you know. So yeah, Lupe Fiasco for sure. Oh
yeah, that's a great take too. I feel like for everybody who knows him, and a lot of people are aware, you know, he is not an unknown artist. Right. But like, he fell off in such a weird way, and I don't think a lot of people are really giving him the credit he deserves. And then his newest album is so good. So good. I forgot the name. I'm the worst with names, but Samurai. Yes, and it's so good. Like, I heard it. I think I listened to it like 3 times in a row.
It's next level.
Cover to cover, cover to cover, cover to cover. It just, and it feels like, it's cool because it feels like old Lupe, but it doesn't feel like old Lupe. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like him, like, it feels like what we fell in love with him with. But then he grew up and he brought that back. Because like there was this, like the Tetsuo and Yu stuff, like stuff in that era of it. I really appreciate what he did in it. But I think that was where he like really grew and gave us Samurai. And it's so good. It's so good. But I don't want to talk about him too much. This is your episode. The next question: who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
I want to work with I Love McConan.
Oh, hell yeah. Shout out I Love McConan.
Yeah, shout out I Love McConan. That's definitely an artist that I really think is underrated and should definitely get their flowers while they're here and while they are in their moment. Yeah. You know, because, McConan inspired a whole generation, you know, and I feel like he dropped a lot of game, too. And he paid the price and paved the way for a lot of young people. Yeah. You know, so... Yeah. I definitely think I Love McConan would be dope.
Oh yeah. I got to run sound for him at a show last year.
No way.
Yeah, super cool dude. He did just recently announce that he's retiring. So
no way.
Yeah, so hopefully you can get him out of it.
That's sad.
Yeah, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's got too much music to make. I'm sure he's just taking a long break. And respectfully so, he just put out a really good body of work, and he's definitely, like you said, he's done a lot. And when you meet him in person, he is just super down to earth. He just has this really calm energy the whole time, and super solid performance. Big fan.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And then for the next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Right. Where would you want to perform?
Where would I want to perform as far as a country and a city and a location?
Yeah, I mean, like it could be like a landmark or like a space. I mean, it can be a venue. It doesn't have to not be one, but like
I would want to perform you know, I got to say the MGM Grand.
Okay.
Or somewhere in Vegas like Caesar's Palace. Just somewhere in Vegas to where perhaps I have a residency or something where I can sell out 10 nights or 100 nights or something like that and just do it back to back to back and just rock the house.
Yep, live in that top penthouse suite the whole time.
That's what I want to do. Yeah. That's where I would go. And it doesn't matter which hotel it is. It could be the Bellagio if the Bellagio wants to work with me. It could be Flamingo. It doesn't matter. But the top, you know, the most legendary would be like MGM or Caesar's Palace. But if T-Mobile Arena wants to shout out to me, like, holla at me, T-Mobile Arena.
Hell yeah, I dig that. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday, who would you want an album from?
That's easy, man. You know, Tupac.
Hell yeah.
It got to be Pac, because if he dropped another album, man, like, it would change the game.
Oh, for sure. You know, that's definitely been the answer that's said before, or an answer that has been said before.
Yeah.
And I always just have to preface with, I'm so curious what music would be like now if he were still here, if he had grown. Because, you know, he would have been reasonably aged by now. He probably would have been like, what, his 50s? Like, you know, I don't know the math. Don't quote me on that. But like, you know, he would have been a grown man. He would have watched generations happen. He would be sitting up there having those conversations with, like, you know, with like Nas and Jay-Z and,
right,
you know, all the big names who are like influencing the conversation. And so that just, I'm so curious what would have come from him as a proper adult.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody more mature.
Yeah.
But then, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, and they say that, you know, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah. So
who's to say that he would be a positive or negative influence on the world? But, you know, everything happens for a reason.
You know, in my heart of hearts, I want to believe, like, you know, because he had a different type of presence about him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was right there with, like, energy wise, not so much in like stylistically, but like, you know, KRS-One, you know what I mean? Like that man is just, he is a legend.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. Like and he knows it, like, you know, he knows it, and he treats his presence with the importance that it needs for his community and for the things around him. And I think Tupac really had that as a person,
totally.
But he was still so young.
Exactly.
That, like, that's not something you can just know when you're in your like 20s. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that takes so long for you to like become.
Right.
And so I think, like, again, deep inside, I think that that's what he would have been today.
Right. And I agree. I think as well, he would have kept his integrity.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just like a different type of world that we live in, and certain leaders, you know, they live a very difficult life. Yeah. And I don't know if he was still alive, that he would be allowed to be as successful as we imagine that he would be. You know, maybe he'd end up in jail for inciting a riot when, you know, he just said the wrong thing, and it's like, yeah, you know, maybe his demise and his passing, you know, really just drove home his message. I think maybe ultimately had to happen, because that's the message that he wanted to leave, is that if you want to be a thug, if you want to be a gangster, this is what you're signing up for, you know. And he really drove that home when he passed, you know.
Very much so.
You know, but hey, rest in peace, Pac. Much love. There's more though. It's like Bob Marley would be another one. Mm-hmm. You know,
that was actually somebody I was thinking of referencing earlier. Yeah, that very much so. All right, but we'll dig into this for a long time. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping up your episode.
For sure.
What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and April?
Between now and April, I should have my mixtape out, Street Kid. Look for that. I don't have a date for you guys. It is to be determined, but just look out for Street Kid. I'm also going to be performing quite a bit. Mm-hmm. You should follow my YouTube though. I'm going to be dropping freestyles, originals. I'm going to be dropping videos. I always love to get on YouTube and just talk and just share my thoughts and my opinions. So if you like to listen to new ways of thinking, just follow me on YouTube at The Soloist LV. My Instagram is The Soloist LV. You can find me on Spotify, The Soloist LV. You can find me on pretty much any platform under that name.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, definitely want to shout out Glowy God. If you ever want to listen to somebody who makes, you know, really original sounding music, listen to Glowy God XTYB. I want to shout out Headass. What's up, Headass? I want to shout out, if you ever listen to this artist, his name is Illicism.
Oh, the name sounds super familiar, actually.
He's one of the most influential artists to me. ILLECISM, Illicism.
Good name.
Super dope.
Yeah.
Also Chewy. What's up, Chewy? Mm-hmm. These are some of the dopest artists. You ever listen to Dizzy Wright?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dizzy Wright from Las Vegas. What's up, Drew Price? What's up, Reezy? What's up, Euros? You know, what's up, T-Rab? These are all the GOATs. These are all the legends from Vegas. You know, and shout out to Amine, you know, from Portland.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just want to spread love to everybody out there. If I didn't mention you, forgive me. But it's all love.
Oh, yeah. All right. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Cool.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Okay.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know.
Okay.
But it's one you think everybody should know.
Demon Days by the Gorillaz.
Yep, I got it right over there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah, like pivotal. Like when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay. So you can rap and be experimental and alternative. And yeah, it's right up there with like the Ella Funk album.
Yep.
But this is actually even more influential. And even like Paper Cut Chronicles by Gym Class Heroes. Like those are 3 super pivotal albums to me. But yeah, Demon Days, if you haven't heard that, you know, they've got like Dale the Funky Homo Sapien on there. They got MF Doom on there, you know, and that's like a mainstream pop album that came out when it came out. And they were working with underground artists and still experimenting with new sounds. Like that was definitely one of the dopest albums. And if you haven't heard it, check it out.
Yeah, no, I think I listen to that album a minimum of once a month.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say a minimum, I mean like it is on my heavy rotation. It's something that every single time I hear it, somehow every single time still, there's just a moment in it where I'm like, oh.
Yeah, bro. It's just like genius. But have you ever heard the album? And I hate to, you know, keep going over on time, but
no, go for it.
Have you ever heard In Rainbows by Radiohead?
Yeah.
That's another one that's just like super great. And if you haven't heard Radiohead's,
yeah, if you haven't heard it by now, like, yeah, now's the time.
That's a badass one. And there's a part 2 that a lot of people heard. So that'd be a cool one too. If you have heard In Rainbows, listen to part 2.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Oh yeah, man, those are all good recs. Those are all super solid ones.
Yeah.
All right, but with that being said, we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate you, Jimmy.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Solo.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.